Hello everyone, this is Professor Robert Solis and welcome to this video lesson. We're going to be talking about Visual Basic strings. So let me go ahead and show you the program that I've already created. I'm going to have the user enter their first and their last name, and then as you can see here I have a group box. Within that group box I have two radio buttons, and the male radio button is already selected. So what I did is in the properties panel you'll see that for this particular radio button, and I'll go back over here to the checked property, you see that it is marked true, and for the female you'll see that checked is false. So that's how you change if whether or not that particular radio button is going to be active or not. You can change the checked property. And then I have a button with three labels over here, and my intention is to change the case for the person's first and last name to either all lowercase letters, all uppercase, regular case, and then I want to create an email address for them. So let's run the program so I can give you a demonstration. If I were to type in, say for example, Robert and then Solis, and then click on submit, you see that all the letters are lowercase here for the lowercase label. For the uppercase label, every word is uppercase, and then just the regular case is just simply adding Mr. in front of Robert Solis. And then if I were to click the female radio button, you see that it adds Miss, and again in the appropriate case for lowercase, uppercase, and then just the regular case. You'll also notice over here that the email, I'm grabbing the first three letters of the person's first name, their entire last name, and then I'm going to concatenate at citruscollege.edu. Alright, so this is the program that we're going to be working on. Let me show you what's going on. First of all, if I were to double click the button, you'll notice that, or the submit button that is, you'll notice that I've created lowercase, uppercase, regular case, and also first name prefix as strings. In fact, let me go ahead and initialize this to nothing. You'll also notice that I created these two first name and last name strings as global variables. Now, when you have declarations inside of a particular procedure, like these are inside of the btn submit click procedure, when you see this type of situation, that means that these guys are local. Only this procedure can see these. But if you make declarations outside of any procedure, that means all of these procedures, any procedure, can see these variables. So we call those global. Sometimes people also refer to these as modular declarations. So global declarations are somewhat discouraged out in the real world of programming. It's not that you can't use them, but people like to use them as infrequently as possible because it can lead to errors because everyone has access to them. So I don't want to give you the impression that they're bad, but if you can, just try to stay away from global variables. But they're not necessarily a bad thing. In this case, the reason why I'm doing that is because I want to be able to use the person's first and last name over here in this particular sub where I touch the radio button. So when I check the radio button or when I click the female radio button, then I'm going to have changes to the first and last name. So that's why I've made these global. And what I'll do is I'll take the person's first and last name that were entered within the text boxes over here. We get their first and last name. And then I'm going to check to see if this radio button was checked. So if this radio button over here is checked, and the way that I can do that is I can use the dot checked property. By the way, notice the Hungarian notation for a radio button. That's RDB. So let me go back over here and select this radio button and this radio button over here and go back over here to properties and notice that the name property is RDB. That's the Hungarian notation for a radio button. And back over here, I'm going to activate or consider the checked property to see if it's true. If this thing is checked, then we're going to add MR period, MR period, MR period in either upper, lower, or regular case. And then I'm going to concatenate to that string. Here's the thing though. I want to make sure that the person's first name is all lowercase letters. So that's where we use the toLower function. The toLower function with the open and close parentheses converts this entire string to lowercase. I'm going to concatenate a space, and then I'll do the same thing with the person's last name. Again, I'm going to use the toLower function to change everything to lowercase. Now, if I want the entire person's first and last name in uppercase, I'll use toUpper with the open and close parentheses. Same thing over here for the last name. I'll use toUpper. And then, of course, for the regular case, well, however they typed their name, which is probably capital first letter. For me, it's capital R. For me, it's capital S for Robert, Solis. And so the regular case is just simply going to be however the user typed their name. All right, so now you know how to change all of the letters to upper or to lowercase. You just simply use that appropriate function toUpper or toLower. Within an if statement, I'm going to say, hey, if this RDB male radio button is checked, then we're going to have the prefix Mr. But if it's not checked, that means that the RDB female dot checked is true. So I just simply have an else statement over here to give the prefix Miss to whatever the person's name is. All right, so how about this? Let's say, for example, when I run the program, you'll notice that right off the bat, I see Mr. already here because the male radio button is selected. I don't like that. I don't want anything here. Why is that the case? Well, first of all, if I double click on a radio button, notice that it takes me over here to the male, RDB male, checked changed procedure. And the problem with that is that as soon as I run the program, it's going to say, yeah, there is a change, and namely that this thing is selected. So automatically it's going to display Mr. here. Just like, say, for example, if I had female selected, it would say Miss over here. So that's really not the procedure that I want. I don't want it when this thing is like checking to see if when it's changed. I want to make sure that it's going to do its job when the user actually clicks on the radio button. So what about this? Let's see here. If I go over here and just simply hover on top of this, you'll notice over here for this particular radio button, I have all of these procedures. So if I just click over here, look at all the procedures that I have available for me. So I do the same thing with the male as well. If I just simply click over here and then click over here, you'll notice that I have a clicked event, or a click event, I should say. So if I touch that, notice that the RDB male click procedure appears. Let me do the same thing over here for RDB female, and let me select click event. And so what I'm going to suggest is really you want this to happen. When the user clicks the RDB male radio button, then you do all this stuff. So let me take all this, cut it, place it over here. I'm going to do the same thing for the code within RDB female. Checked change, put that over here. Let's see what happens now. So save my work, run the program. Okay, so now you don't see anything here. So when the user types in their first and last name, like I'll type in Robert Solis, and male is selected. When I click submit, okay, now I see a change. If I click female, again, you'll see the change. Go back to male, you'll see the change. So that's really what I want. When you click this, then go ahead and make the change, as opposed to displaying something from check change. And then, of course, if I were to change the word, like, say, for example, Tommy or Joshua, and then submit, okay, go back over here, that change is actually made. So that looks good. Let me stop the program. And now let's consider how we're going to solve the issue of generating the email. Well, remember, what we want to do is we want to grab the first 3 letters of the person's first name. So the way that we can do that is using substring. Substring is a tool that you get for any string. So remember, first name is a string, as you can see over here. Actually, I created it up here. First name and last name, they're both strings. And so what I'll do is I'll say whatever the name of the string is, dot substring. The way that substring works is starting from what position, how many characters do you want? Okay, so let me create this quick graphic here just so that you can see graphically what this looks like. Each string has an index. So an index is a numeric location indicating what the value looks like at that particular location. So let's say, for example, that I have these indices, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put R over here, O, B, E, R, T. Okay, so for a string that I type inside here, inside of the text box, first name, right? Then when I assign that over here in get user input, whenever I assign whatever's inside of that text box to first name has our OBERT in it. The R is at index 0. The O is at index 1. The B is at index 2, so forth and so on. What is the length of the string? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What is the starting position? Position 0. And where's the last letter? At position 5. But we don't say position, we say the word index. So this thing is index 0. R is at index 0. Sometimes people like to say R is the first element. That's true. You can use that type of verbiage as well. All right, so if I have the storage of a string and it looks like this, then starting at position 0, grab 3 characters. Okay, starting at position 0, grab 3 characters. And as you can see, that would be those 3 right there. If I said something like starting at position 3, grab 2 characters. Okay, starting at position 3, grab 2 characters. So E and R would be grabbed as a result of this. Let me undo and go back to what I want, which is this. Starting at position 0, grab the first 3 characters, because that's how we generate emails here at Citrus. We take the person's first 3 letters of their first name, their entire last name, and then, of course, we'll add some numbers, but don't worry about the numbers. And then after that, we say at citruscollege.edu. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab the first 3 letters starting from position 0, and that's going to be assigned to first name prefix. Let me change that entire first name prefix to uppercase, and so I reassign first name prefix to the uppercase version of whatever those 3 letters are. And then I'm going to take that, concatenate that with the person's entire last name. Notice how I convert it to uppercase. And then I'll also concatenate that with a string at citruscollege.edu. We're going to put that whole thing in this lbl email.text property, which is going to be inside this particular label. So if I run the code and I type in Robert Solis, submit, notice that ROB, the first 3 letters of my name, and then SOLIS. Let me change this to Joshua. And so JOS, the first 3 letters. What if I change that to Jackson? JAC, SOLIS, so forth and so on, right? So it's just grabbing the first 3 letters of the string, and then it's going to use that to add to the the name of my email address here at Citrus College.